everybody, this is the Wikstrand. So whenever I watch a movie, I always try to meet the filmmakers halfway, especially if it is a good movie, because it just makes the experience better than if you have to, think about the plot too much or try to inject too much logic to the whole thing. But sometimes filmmakers do stuff that is so head-scratching that you're forced to thinking, why do this? It would be so much simpler and so much easier if they did so and so and such and such. It's the hitchhiking thing, but we'll get to that in a second. The thing is that they also did one thing that I have never seen in any other movie, and I didn't even know that this was a thing, if this is a thing. But when Al is coming to the border between Arizona and California, they have a border patrol. They basically have a hard border, like when Douglas Quaid goes to Mars in Total Recall. He has to, declare whether or not he brings any vegetables and stuff like that to California from Arizona. Why? Was that a thing? Was that a thing back in 1945 that you had to, declare goods when you were crossing the state lines? I know that the states in the United States want to, have their own laws regarding, different kind of things, but a border? I don't know, maybe I'm thinking too much about this. Let's find out what this movie is about, and if you think you will like this, because this is kind of a hidden classic when it comes to film noirs. But is it good? Is it worthy of its classical status? That's what we're gonna find out. This movie is called Detour. So Al Roberts is a pianist in New York City. He's not very successful at it, and he really misses his girlfriend Sue, who has gone to LA to seek her fortune. And he decides that he's going to, visit her because he has had it with New York. Now, he is a little bit short on money, so he decides that he's going to hitchhike to Los Angeles from New York City. That is quite a stretch to hitchhike. Now, I don't know what the situation looked like when it comes to, public transportation in the mid-40s in the United States, but Greyhound had been around for 30 years at this point. So, do you mean to tell me that it's actually cheaper to hitchhike, this enormous distance? To sleep at flop houses, to, have meals at least 3 times a day than it is to have a bus ticket and, survive on whatever they, sell on the bus or whatever. I don't know, this was just a little head scratching and made me think, wouldn't it have been easier for them to just have him, drive down towards LA, and his car breaks down in Arizona, and that is where he meets Charles, rather than the fact that Charles is just the latest guy who gives him a ride. But maybe I'm reading too much into that thing. So Charles Haskell is this sleazy gambling type of a guy who picks him up in Arizona, and they're driving towards California, and he's talking a little bit about himself and gives him a little bit of information regarding his backstory. But then all of a sudden Charles is dead. He has died from whatever he died from, a heart attack or something, a stroke maybe. But Al fears that the police will believe that he had something to do with the demise of good old Charles. So he, instead of reporting this thing, he just assumes Charles Haskell's identity and keeps driving on towards California. This is where the border thing happens. But at a truck stop, he meets a woman called Vera, and Vera knows who Charles Haskell is, and you are not Charles Haskell. So she starts to blackmail him, and this blackmailing thing will ultimately, force these two characters who doesn't like each other to have to help each other. And they are just triggering each other into doing more and more heinous things. How is this going to end for them? Will he ever get rid of Vera? Will he actually be reunited with Sue, or is he the making of his own demise? That's essentially what this movie is, once we get around to that part of the story, because this movie has a lot of setup to do. A bit ironic considering that this movie is only 66 minutes long, and it's weird because this movie feels simultaneously like it rushes things because it is so short, but it also feels like it's dragging its feet behind because it takes it so long time to get to the really good stuff, because it is a fascinating tale and it is a good story with characters that you are interested in where they're going. Now, I will say that the acting is decent, but this is no The Big Sleep or Double Indemnity or The Killing or these really excellent film noir movies. If they could have had better actors, I think they could have made something really good out of this one. And if they could have had, you know, a slightly longer runtime and a little bit more focused on what the story was, I think this movie could have been a great movie, because the characters are so compelling, and one action that leads to one action that leads to one action that leads to one action is very good. Unfortunately, the movie ends in a way that I thought was very deflating and just a little bit, that was an ending, I guess. Even though before that happens, they have a sequence that made me go, what are they doing? What? They did that? That was quite a scene indeed. It's the thing with the telephone. Now, I know why they did the ending that they did, and it is totally, you know, reasonable to think that a movie like this should end in this way, but I wanted something else, and I thought that they could have done something good if they wouldn't have had such a deflating and kind of naff ending to the whole thing. But I'm not unhappy that I saw it. Now, this is not a movie for, you know, rookies when it comes to watching film noir movies. You should probably begin with some of the really good ones, like, you know, The Asphalt Jungle or The Big Sleep or The Maltese Falcon or the other movies that I've mentioned before. This is apparently some kind of a cult classic, even though I cannot quite figure out what is so special about it. There are good things here, and there are individual sequences and moments that is absolutely excellent, but as a whole, it doesn't quite hold up in my opinion. Detour is a very good story with some okay acting and a bit of a naff ending to the whole thing, but I still have to give this movie 51 points, because there are moments that is really good, but if they could have, you know, focused a little bit more on what actually works, and if they could have, you know, skipped the whole thing with the hitchhiking bit, then we probably could have had a really good film noir. And I'm not against Hollywood doing a remake of this one if they so should decide, because there is enough great material here to create something that is quite memorable and quite excellent. This, however, was not quite that. So I'll see you next time for, well, so-and-so reviewing, well, such and such. Thank you for watching. Thank you very much.